Let's get into it. First date conversations. So, my number one question I want to ask of you is, as you are dating someone, as you are moving around in the dating world, I know everybody wants to be very transparent on their first date. They want to tell him, my mom wasn't there for me, my dad wasn't there for me, my aunt was never there for me. Oh my God. You know, my car crashed the other day. This bad thing happened to me. My dad was never there. What else are you guys saying? Um, Lots of sad things. When you are first starting a new relationship, there's going to be a time and a place where you can tell all of your trauma and you can just unload it on him. There's going to be a time and a place for that. The beginning, the first date is not the place for that. Controlling your narrative, putting yourself on a pedestal is going to be the place. It's going to be the beginning. Controlling your narrative, putting yourself on a pedestal is going to be the beginning. Are you guys following me? Let me just make sure that my sound is better this time around and give me a quick 1 second to just look on YouTube and make sure we're all good here. Let me make sure. Let's see if people are in here. I would love to see some little chitter chatter in the chat. I would love to answer some questions. Are you guys following? So here we go. In the beginning, you're not telling your trauma. In the beginning, you want to be treated like a queen, right? So how does a queen act? Remember, Queen Elizabeth, she was never in any scandalous drama, right? Probably the worst thing she did publicly to the Americans, to us, was that she kind of married someone who was below her, right? Like, he didn't make her a queen. She made him a king, right? But I want you to think of, if you're coming in and someone's making you a queen, this ain't Pretty Woman. This is real life. I'm not saying you have to be a realist, but what I'm saying is that most of the time, if you're doing what Julia Roberts was doing in the beginning of Pretty Woman, if you haven't seen the movie, go find it and go and watch. If you're meeting someone like that, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be taking that serious. If you are unloading trauma, you're not going to be taking that serious. So act like a queen to be treated like one. Act like a queen to be treated like one. How can you do this? By controlling your narrative. How do I control my narrative, Kenise? You control your narrative by talking more about the good things you want to happen, by talking more about the good things, the good things from your past. Make him earn the information of, I've been through this trauma, I've been through that trauma. Let him show you that first, he's not a predator, just coming to steal the goodies. First, let's make sure he's not a predator that actually doesn't really like you. First off, let's make sure he's not a predator that just wants to use you. So how do you eliminate this? I was watching something earlier today, and the woman was saying dating apps are dead. We shouldn't be on dating apps. And I'm not saying anything is wrong with dating apps. I also want you to get in the field and meet people as well. But first and foremost, the number one thing I want you to do is you never meet up with someone the same day. First and foremost, you never have a reason for someone to even see your house in the first month. Act like a queen to be treated as such. Okay, we're going to keep on going back to that. So I want you to keep that in your mind. Act like a queen to be treated as such. He shouldn't see your house. You shouldn't see his house in the first month. You should only be dating once a week, because when you date someone every day for a week, now all of a sudden he's the love of your life, because you let him in too fast and your brain has produced a chemical. oxytocin and dopamine and all some other stuff. To prevent this, we need to make sure that we're not hanging out with him every day, because then we are demonetized, right? Now we're like, oh my God, this is the one. I've seen him every day this week. That's not how it works. You're sharing trauma, you're building trauma. And then now you're like, oh my God, he's the best guy ever. He comforted me. He told me he's not going to leave me like my dad left me. He's not going to leave me like my mom left me. If you have abandonment issues and you know you have that, you can't afford to play around. So your first date conversation, your beginning of dating conversation, your beginning of messaging on the apps, your beginning of meeting at the restaurant, meeting at the tennis place is going to be a light conversation. It's not going to be you on the dating app with him pulling information out of him. It's not going to be you pulling the conversation because this is a guy you really like. Let him pull the conversation. Let him pull things out of you, not you pulling things out of him to have a conversation. Men can smell desperate a mile away. I know you want to be super honest with him. You want to be super honest when you get started. You want to say, you know, I didn't have my dad in my life. My last relationship ended horribly. But there's a time and a place to spill your guts to people. But it's time for you in this year to start making people earn those conversations, not just making someone, you know, now that you've met them, you've hung out with them twice, you hung out with this man twice, or however the number, you're spilling all of your trauma. That's going to be a huge, big, huge no. Big, huge HELL no. If you want to be a queen, act as such. A queen is not on a date letting someone know all the trauma. She's not on a date letting him know exactly where she lives. She's not on a date begging for, oh, when is our next date going to be? That's not her. Put yourself on a pedestal. I'm not saying you have to lie, but you need to control the narrative that you want to display to someone. Okay, so we have a vice president right now, right? I don't know how to say her name right. I got to be honest, because I'm not really that into politics. But let's say, I think her name is Kamala Harris. Do we know the information between her and her husband? Do we know that she has really bad fights? But I'm sure she's had a bad fight with her husband because she's human, right? I'm sure they've argued before. She's human, right? Is that the first thing that she's telling us when she wants to be our president? Just think of it. If you're going on a date with him and you're vetting him, this is someone that you potentially want to be your husband, right? The more you keep hanging with him. So how do you want him to see you? Because you get to control that. You get to control that. Let's see if there's any questions in the box below. Okay, just making sure. So, in conclusion, I just want to let you know that you have to control your narrative. You have to control your narrative. It's up to no one else. He's not on a date with anyone else. He's not on a date with your friends. He's not on a date with your auntie. He's not on a date with your uncle. He's on a date with you. It's up to you to control your narrative. It's up to you to know if he really likes you or not. And if you feel like he doesn't really like you, it's up to you to move on. Does anyone have any questions? Looks like there's 5 of you guys on. I'm just going to refresh my live chat again and just make sure. But in closing, I feel like you get to walk away with a lot today. And this is a great surprise that I'm on right now. All right. So I'm just happy to be back on today, and I'm getting out of here. All right. Love you, ladies, and I will try to be on again